Welcome to us, Financial Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I'm always grateful. I met someone today, Adelaide, who said she watches it, so thank you, Adelaide. I appreciate everyone who comes to this podcast. I attended and was part of a panel discussion this morning. This was the World Bank Kenya Country Economic Memorandum. The link is on Rich Wrap-Ups for the full report, and it was very interesting. I'll get to it when I get down to Kenya, but I participated in a panel discussion with Bob Collymore and Zetse Were, and a very accomplished moderator in Judy Gichu. I wrote a piece over the weekend, The Sports Economy in Wadi Degla. I quoted Nelson Mandela: sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand. Sport can create hope where once there was only despair. It is more powerful than government in breaking down racial barriers. Nelson Mandela. China's foreign reserves have slowed their decline but dropped to the lowest level since December 2011. And have a look at this chart, which shows the Chinese export slump and why they're recalibrating their economy to domestic consumption. Home thoughts started with Eliasson, Olafur Eliasson. Food is more important than art. You die from not having food. You die from not having art too, just not as fast, he said. Of course, Olafur Eliasson is famous for his weather project, which I wished I'd been in London to see. My goal is to formulate a new colour theory based on the full spectrum of visible light, he said. I see the artist as a participant, a co-producer of reality. Then your rainbow panorama. Have a look at this photograph, it's pretty cool. Like an office like that. And then I like this photograph from Sam Dave, the Whiskey Whisperer on Twitter. Shine on, Nairobi, he said. Laurent Baher, who's a fabulous photographer of wild animals. Cheetah Triptych. And finally, this photograph of lions in the Serengeti with the big cats roaming. A US airstrike has killed more than 150 Al-Shabaab militants in Somalia, the Pentagon has said. Spokesman Captain Jeff Davis said the strike hit a training camp where a large-scale attack was being planned. We know they were going to be departing the camp, and they posed an imminent threat to US and African Union forces, the captain said. Initial assessments are that more than 150 terrorist fighters were eliminated, he added. Mr. Davis said the strike by both drones and manned aircraft took place on Saturday and targeted Rasso Camp, a training facility about 120 miles north of the capital, Mogadishu. I've dealt with this question severally. I called it the insurgency tail risk in September 2014. I asked, are we headed into a new Waziristan-type normal? And knocking out 150 Al-Shabaab is kind of Waziristan style, if not even more extreme. Craig Whitlock, US drone strikes in Somalia represents huge escalation of US military ops there. Pentagon says it killed more than 150 militants, most since 1993. The Al-Shabaab's military spokesman Sheikh Abu Musab told Reuters the US bombed an area controlled by Al-Shabaab, but they exaggerated the figure of casualties. We never gather 100 fighters in one spot for security reasons. We know the sky is full of planes, he said. But clearly, if you look at the attack on the Kenyan base in Somalia, if you look at attacks in Mogadishu, the chart continues to spike higher. If you throw in yesterday's response, give or take whatever number you care to, it's still moving up rather exponentially. EU nears deal on migrant cap as Turkey raises its asking price. EU leaders edge toward an agreement with Turkey to halt the inflow of immigrants, with the Turkish government jacking up the price for serving as the EU's defensive barrier. Turkish Prime Minister Davutoglu caught EU leaders off balance with a plea for last-minute concessions at a Brussels summit, calling on the bloc to double its financial aid to Turkey to €6 billion. Turkey paired that request with its most serious offer yet to stop the traffic of refugees across the Aegean Sea into Europe, hinting at a possible breakthrough as soon as the next summit on March 17 and March 18. I can't help but conclude that Turkey unlocked the door, and this remains on target for 10x versus 2015. Currency markets: the euro is at 110.11, dollar index 96.98, Japanese yen 112.86, Swissy 0.9912, the pound 142.15, the Australian dollar 0.7429, Indian rupee 67.385, South Korean won 12.0885, Rial 378.32, Egyptian pound 782.45, and the rand 15.43.29. I'll put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index, and I think it's a buy at these levels, not least because 2-year yields, for example, and I'll put up an image, have jumped to 0.91%, which is the highest since January the 13th. And I think recently expectations around US rate hikes, i.e. one, had become way too bullish, and therefore I think as we unwind that, we should see a stronger dollar. Euro dollar, have a look at this 3-month chart, back above 110. It's all about Mario Draghi. In 2012 September, I wrote a piece, Super Mario, the Euro's Savior, and he said then, "We designed a parkour, a road, and it's in the hands of the governments," he said. Parkour, of course, is that spectacular modern sport of jumping off walls and doing extraordinary gymnastic feats. I'll put up a photograph. Japan's 10-year bond yields dropped to record minus 0.085% as economy shrank, an annualized 1.1% in Q4 2015. Negative yielding Japanese debt doubles. Have a look at this picture as well. So clearly complexities in Japan. I still am of the view that the yen goes to 105. Gold, last trading at 1273.90. Put up a 6-month chart. It's been a huge rally, and I'm sad to say I missed it until sort of well over 1100. Speculators flee bearish bets. Brent jumps above $40 a barrel. Brent crude broke above $39 for the first time this year, then 40. Brent is climbing for the 6th consecutive day, its longest winning streak in 4 months. WTI climbed as high as $36.72. Let me see, it's $38.54 as we speak. Brent has surged more than 40% from its January low as the number of rigs drilling for oil in the US has dropped to a post-crisis low, and fears over slowing global growth have moderated. It's been a broad-based rally. I think it's been a lot of short covering. Ore, iron ore with 62% content delivered to Qingdao jumped 19% yesterday to $63.74 a dry metric ton. That's the biggest gain in daily data going back to 2009 and the highest price since June. The iron ore and steel markets have gone berserk. They've departed from fundamentals and are heavily driven by sentiment. Investors are expecting further monetary easing by the Chinese government to boost steel demand. So we've had a huge move, a rebound in the commodity space. Let's see, we're getting into territory now where if it can push on, we're going to have another equivalent rebound, but if it can't, we're going to fall back down, back to the lows. The election no one is talking about on March 20th, citizens of the Republic of Congo will vote in the country's next presidential election, but this election can hardly be called democratic in an increasingly authoritarian nation. While there are 10 opposition candidates, there is little doubt that incumbent President Sassou Nguesso will assume power for a 3rd term. The media, the US government have been virtually silent regarding these early elections originally expected to occur in July 2016. However, if history has taught us anything, the media and the US government should have their eyes on the Republic of Congo to prevent an election marred by fraud and violence. South African all share up 3.81% this year. It's come back pretty sharply. Dollar rand, in line with the rebound we've seen in high beta currencies, still 5 at 15.3709. Egyptian EGX30 down 9.68% this year. Nigerian manufacturers are lobbying the central bank for a weekly dollar sale. Manufacturing Association of Nigeria has about 2,700 members. Proposed weekly auctions of dollars to manufacturing businesses as a meeting with Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele in Abuja. We're calling for the central bank to start giving to us directly, hand to hand, rather than through the banks. Some of our members will run out of raw materials next month. Without restocking, what will happen? Thousands of jobs are on the line. The Nigerian all share is down 9.61% this year. The Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is down 1.21% this year. FastJet has warned on full year results, saying that results for the year would be materially below market expectations, adding pressure to the African budget airline, whose second largest investor is seeking the ouster of Chief Executive Ed Winter. FastJet may consider raising further funds during the year to fund future growth as market conditions improve. Interesting piece in the New York Times about Tripoli, a tense and listless city with gunmen in a well-stocked Hugo Boss outlet. Cracking open the giant church door, the Nigerian watchman cast a wary eye over the deserted street. It was Saturday morning. Tripoli's old city, but only a trickle of worshippers was expected at the 19th century Anglican church, which towered over the curling alleyways. The congregation is made up mostly of African migrants, said Oki, the watchman. But now they stay away, fearing arrest by the predatory militias that prowl the streets of the capital. So the migrants lie low, waiting for the calm seas for summer and the chance of a boat to Europe. Oki is waiting too, heading to London, and he said, insisting somewhat improbably that he intended to apply for a visa. I'll make it this year, he said, or maybe next, I hope. Everyone seems to be waiting for something in Tripoli, a tense, listless city caught in the maw of Libya's strange war. As conflict rages elsewhere in the country, in the ravaged eastern city of Benghazi, or Sirte, where the Islamic State exerts its brutal grip, a precarious order holds in the capital. Smugglers lurk in the port, migrants lie in wait, heavily armed militias and squabbling politicians, nominally alive, quietly vie for control. It's become like America, a land of opportunity for kidnappers, said Mohammed El-Najjoub, the chatty 30-year-old militia commander who sped through Tripoli one night. Put up a photograph of a crowd celebrating in Benghazi. That was when they heard of the overthrow of Colonel Gaddafi. And I wrote that piece, Gaddafi's body in a freezer, what's the message? Mining collapse cripples Africa's dreams of prosperity. Have a look at how the African currencies have performed. The Zambian kwacha, the Angolan currency, the South African rand. Uganda's central bank has sold a majority stake in Imperial Bank Uganda, previously held by Kenya's collapsed Imperial Bank. At this function that I attended this morning, the Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich said implementation is key. It's not wrong. Purva, who's the chief economist of the World Bank, said Kenya's growth is volatile and lower in election years. If Kenya pumped oil at the same speed as the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, oil would be depleted in 52 days. That's interesting. Between 2006 and 2013, 72% of the increase in GDP came from services. One of his big points was how Kenya was a very service economy. I'll put up a chart of Kenyan growth since independence, and you can see that it's very rare that we've managed to stay above 7 and stay there. Equity Group reported full-year profit after tax was up only 1.024%. Loans and advances to customers up 26%. This is interesting. Total interest expense up 48.763%. Other operating expenses up 43.004%. Profit before tax up 12.476%. Profit after tax up 1.024%. Gains, losses from translating the financial statements of foreign operations, 5.75 billion shillings versus a small gain the previous year. So you can see where the differences have come. That must be South Sudan related. Earnings per share 4 shillings 59 cents versus 4 shillings and 63 cents. Dividend up 11.11%. So I think if you're looking for where the results got crimped, they got crimped by, as I said, other operating expenses. That was a 4 billion shilling differential. FX 5.75 billion, both of which took a big chunk out of that. It's a strong business, and I think you are always going to get some growth-related pangs, but I think it's going down a little bit from here. Kenya shilling 101.59, Nairobi all share up 1.04% year to date. Very strong week last week. NSE 20 down 1.5%. Year to date. And I like this photograph. Salim Amin posted on 3rd of March 1954. The colonial government in Kenya began negotiations with Mau Mau leaders. And it's a pretty iconic photograph as well. Once again, I appreciate you stopping by.